myself. I'm not the 17-year-old girl who started playing on her ukulele more anymore. I'm a 21-year-old girl who kind of plays the ukulele sometimes, but maybe wants to do some different things.
Hi, I'm Ali, and I'm here with mxmtoon for NME's In Conversation series. How are things?
Good. I just got to London this morning, so, busy, but good. Yeah.
Amazing. You're in foreign cities, you just released a new song, there's an album coming out. Does everything kind of start feeling normal now?
No, not at all. I was literally walking over here for this video, and my manager was like, "Congrats on your album announced." And I was like, "The what?" I just it completely slipped my mind that was even happening. So, I think I'll probably never get used to just traveling to different places. I never even knew if I would come to London in my lifetime. So, I don't know. Just enjoying the ride, I guess, is probably the best way to describe it.
Amazing. But yes, Sad Disco is out. Mm-hmm. Rising's coming in a few months. How are you feeling about this whole new era, I guess?
It feels really exciting, and I feel like it's been a long time coming. Mm. I mean, I released an original song for Life is Strange, True Colors last year, but I really haven't done any music releases for mxmtoon specifically since 2020. So it's been a long time. I mean, we're 2 years past that point, and I feel like I've just been very excited and antsy to introduce people to what I've been working on. So I'm glad it's finally happening. Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, let's talk Sad Disco. Mm-hmm. It's such a banger.
Thank you.
What inspired it? What were you kind of pulling from?
I think it was really just, I've been listening to, clearly, a lot of Abba over the course of the pandemic. And I remember, I was re-listening to Mamma Mia's soundtrack over and over and over and over again. And just dancing around in my room, trying to make myself feel happy in a time that has been very sad and very strenuous and weird. And so I think the song is really just about being able to experience a moment of joy when you're by yourself and to be okay with that feeling, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was that dancing around your room kind of to Abba, was that to write songs? Were you like, I can't write sad emo songs? Or was it just kind of something you needed for yourself?
I think it was a mixture.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I think despite the fact that I write songs that are kind of more maybe down-tempo and sadder with the ukulele, that's not the music I listen to. I listen to disco, funk, and pop music. I just love upbeat songs. And so it was so fun to be able to step into that session that day. I worked on the song with producer Gabe Simon, and I was just I really wish I could make a song that makes me feel the way that Abba does. And that's how Sad Disco came out. It was kind of okay, what's the song that I would want to listen to if I was dancing around in my room? And that's Sad Disco.
I mean, what is your go-to Abba song?
Oh my gosh. The one that I was listening to a lot was When I Kissed the Teacher. When I was writing that Sad Disco, I was like, when I kissed the teacher. It's so catchy.
Amazing. And what do you kind of hope that song means to other people?
I hope that it allows people to experience happiness when things feel pretty uncertain and weird. And I mean, every day is different. There's a lot of stuff happening in the world currently, and I think everyone can hopefully find a piece of joy through music. And music is something that provided me so much escape when I was struggling. And I think Sad Disco is just hopefully a song people can add to their playlist that can make them happy. Yeah.
Amazing. At what point do you start thinking oh, I wonder what other people are going to kind of get from this and kind of what it means to other people?
I think about it actually after I make the song. Yeah. I think I try really hard to, at least in this project, I tried really hard to make songs that at first I would enjoy it, first and foremost. In the past, I think I've thought more heavily about okay, how is this going to be interpreted by other people? But this project, specifically with Rising, I think it was music made out of necessity for me and kind of what I needed as a person. And after it was done being made, I thought more heavily about how will this interact with people's lives? And Sad Disco feels like a very natural addition to people's at-home kitchen playlists. Yeah.
I mean, what do you think changed about that then?
I think because it has been such a long time since I released a project for mxmtoon, I had time to really think about what is this next chapter for me and what will that look like? And I think I recognized that the next step for me to push myself was to just make music for me. And it can be really scary to just try and pay attention to what you want as an artist and pay full focus to that without really thinking too much about, okay, maybe people don't want a Sad Disco song. That might not be true, but I think it allows for so much more vulnerability and genuine excitement for a song to come out when you feel so proud of what you've made and you've been listening to it for so long when you've made it. And so I'm just like, it feels like I can finally breathe now that it's out in the world. Yeah.
I mean, how have the past couple of years been for you kind of inspiration-wise? Have you been kind of constantly writing and experimenting, or has it kind of been something that's kind of felt like, oh, I should probably write some songs?
I think it's probably that side of it. It was so hard. I mean, I think creative people recognize when you're not living life, it's possible to write about anything or make art about anything because you don't have anything to make it about. And I barely wrote in 2021 because it was just like, okay, I'm literally sitting in my room all day. Like, how could I be the most boring song ever if I'm like, I'm literally in my room all day and I can't go see outside? Like, that's just so sad. And I think I started writing again in like 2020, or rather, I didn't really write in 2020, beginning of 2021, and then I started writing in the later half of 2021 just because I was like, okay, I've sat here long enough. I need to make music because I haven't had this emotional release of working with people and writing lyrics for so long. It has to happen. It's like breathing. So you just eventually, you have to breathe. And so that was when these songs kind of started coming into existence.
Amazing. And kind of, did you have a vision for the album going in? Did you kind of know what you wanted to do with this one?
Not at all. I think it was so open-ended for me, and that was what was exciting too, was because I didn't have to make a ukulele song as my first one. It was like Sad Disco was the very first song I wrote that ended up and landing on this project. And like that song was so different than anything else I'd ever made. And so it was so exciting for me. I was like, wow, maybe I am capable of just taking an idea and running with it. And so I didn't have a plan. And I think naturally, lyrically, a lot of the things lined up, but sonically it was about kind of, okay, how do we tie these all together and create a world from it? But it was just fun. I could make anything. Yeah.
I mean, how different is kind of the record to what you've done before?
I think musically, like production-wise, it's very different in terms of the way it sounds. It's more polished and pop-oriented, and that is kind of always what I've wanted to do with my music, but maybe haven't had the tools or the vocabulary to explain that in an effective way until this project. And so that's really exciting. But I think lyrically, it feels very mxmtoon and very grounded in kind of the ideas and stories that a lot of my music has had previously about getting older and growing up and finding yourself. So.
Yeah, I mean, were there any worries about kind of the different sonics kind of inspirations or kind of the production?
Definitely. I think I know my audience to be people who really love like the Phoebe Bridgers-Clairo side of music and the Taylor Swift like singer-songwriter, maybe more like folklore, Evermore type things that are kind of sadder, more mellow, more thoughtful, and kind of the way that they're expressed. And not to say my music isn't thoughtful, but I think it definitely is a different kind of muscle that I was flexing on this project to kind of make songs that feel like they have a different energy to them. And so it was scary to think about, okay, will my audience be receptive to songs that feel like sad disco, where maybe it is called sad disco, but it definitely doesn't feel that way when you listen to it. And they are, which is great news for me on this next project, but it was daunting in the kind of what if question of it.
Did you do that thing where, you know, after you've done a couple of songs like Sad Disco, you're like, oh, maybe I should just kind of pick up the ukulele and kind of see if that feels right still? And
yeah, it definitely did pick up the ukulele a couple times. I was like, okay, can I still do this? Like, is it still something that feels natural for me to do? And it definitely does. I mean, there's a couple tracks on there that I did start in my bedroom by writing them on my ukulele, and then I'd bring them into a session and we'd kind of flesh it out from there. But yeah, I mean, I still love writing on my little ukulele. It's my old faithful instrument. I think there's a beauty in kind of being able to be in your own space and write something that feels personal, but then also wonderful to bring it with a collaborator and make it into something so much bigger than you ever imagined. But yeah, that'll probably always be a part of the process.
Amazing. So is kind of Sad Disco kind of the outlier on Rising, or kind of a lot of the songs in that kind of Abba vein?
I'd say there are a couple songs in the Abba vein. There are a couple songs in the Lily Allen vein. Like there's different songs I feel like that hit different boxes for me in terms of what people I was drawing inspiration from and what artists. So I would say people still haven't heard the full scope of what's to come, which is so exciting. But I also hope that they like it.
Yeah, I mean, what other musicians were you kind of pulling from? I know you mentioned Lily Allen, because I've heard a couple of the songs. definitely Spice Girls element, I think, on it.
Oh my God, I'm so flattered. I think nostalgic kind of pop artists are definitely people that I was drawing inspiration from, and Lily Allen is a big one. I was even looking at like the Disney Channel era of music. Like, I think a lot of the music I grew up listening to that was so fun and enjoyable for me when I first found it is like, even nursery rhymes are a big inspiration for me. Because I think there's something so effective about the structure of the way that they're written, and they're catchy for a reason because we like them. And so bringing in kind of the elements of things that maybe people might see as silly, but also being able to indulge in that and not being afraid of like, okay, I really liked that Bridget Mendler song. Like, maybe I can make something that's kind of like that. Yeah.
I mean, why do you think you're kind of leaning into that, kind of silly, or kind of, I guess there's like a naivety or kind of an innocence to that kind of era of pop music?
Yeah. I think that it definitely spoke to me throughout the pandemic, largely because it was something, I wasn't really finding new music through the course of the last 2 years. I was just leaning on things that provided me a lot of comfort growing up. And I think so many of us were. And so I was rewatching shows like Phineas and Ferb and like listening to the music from that. And I'm like, wow, these songs are great. Like, why can't I put this on my playlist of inspiration for the next LP? So I think naturally, just by a reactionary process of something so traumatic happening and then needing to find things that were comforting, I just ended up looking back on the CDs that I grew up listening to and the songs that I sang when I was 6 years old, and like trying to look at the moment, I realized I loved music and thinking about what songs I was listening to at that point. And it was Mamma Mia. Yeah.
I mean, how sort of quickly did that kind of feel comfortable for you?
Oh, I think it was scary at first to kind of dive into that and be like, okay, I'm going to indulge in this moment and really allow myself to just see these pieces and not feel ashamed of bringing them into a professional environment too. I'm like bringing in, I really want Dancing Queen to be an inspiration for this, but I think music is so personal and what speaks to people. And I think I recognize that like if someone wasn't willing to help me write a song that reminded me of a nursery rhyme I grew up listening to, like I just need to work with that person. And I think creativity is different person to person. And I found really great collaborators to kind of help me feel more comfortable about that process. Mm-hmm.
And I guess kind of lyrically, what were you kind of writing about then?
I wrote a lot about growing up. And I mean, it's so crazy that I started this pandemic at the age of 19 and I'm 21 now. And it feels like, 2 years is a long time to sit and think about who you are and what you will become. And so a lot of the lyrics are really about getting older and leaving behind the teenager that I started my job as and growing into the adult that I'm trying to be. And what does that process look like? And so many of my audience members too, they're like kids who were in their last year of high school and now they're going into college. And it's like, they were 15 when the pandemic began, now they're 18. They're kind of going on to the next chapter. And so I feel like it's kind of been this universal experience of all of us trying to navigate what it means for us to be where we are now and versus where we began when this started. Mm-hmm.
Would you say it's a coming of age records?
I think it is in some ways. It's kind of it feels like it's saying, all right, you saw the last time. This is different, this is new, and we're moving on. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And because obviously you did the Dawn and Dusk EPs, and they would kind of split the happier songs and kind of the more introspective ones.
Yeah.
How helpful was kind of that in kind of, I guess, getting to focus on the different elements in writing this record, which seems like it's a mixture of the two?
I think it accidentally became that for sure. It was so funny when we were talking about the creative process for it. I was like, it's hilarious, even the album artwork is purple and like the Dawn and Dusk are red and blue. And so it feels like, Rising is this third kind of installation of those songs. And it is a mixture of maybe more sadder, introspective songs and also the happier, upbeat songs that can talk about like joyful experience. So I think it naturally kind of cemented itself as being like the closing sentence to everything that has happened in those last two EPs and the Masquerade even, and is kind of like a final conversation piece. So to allow me to move on to my next version of myself. I'm not the 17-year-old girl who started playing on her ukulele anymore. I'm a 21-year-old girl who kind of plays the ukulele sometimes, but maybe wants to do some different things. So I hopefully allowing people to kind of see me in a different light. Mm-hmm.
I mean, are you hoping this is kind of your pop star era?
I don't know. It's tricky because I don't want to be like an Ariana Grande. I think that'd be a lot of pressure. But I think if anything, it's hopefully just opening another door for me to explore and allowing people to continue to broaden their perspective of what an artist can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think it's interesting, like, it felt like you were kind of just breaking out of the online musician thing.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic hit and you were kind of forced back.
Absolutely.
But kind of, you still grown as an artist through that time, but like still within the confines of that.
100%. It was very weird. I ended up being right back in my old bedroom. It was like I moved to New York and then the pandemic happened and then I was back with my family in my childhood bedroom looking at the CDs that I listened to when I was 6 years old. And so I took those as inspiration and I was like, okay, how do I update this and move on and like make myself also feel like I'm changing and progressing through this.
Yeah, I mean, was it tough to kind of do that without it being nostalgic or feeling dated or kind of just feeling like a throwback as opposed to something contemporary and kind of that's got something to say to today?
Definitely. I think there was pieces where I was like, okay, I want this like record to still stand the test of time. Like I don't want it to just be, you know, like super catchy for the sake of being catchy. Like I want these lyrics to resonate and I want the production to also fit regardless of kind of what era we might be in. And I think it's very strange that we're kind of in like a 70s, 80s revival right now. So like it kind of naturally ended up being that way. But I don't know. I think I recognize that lyrically you can kind of make things feel maybe more up to speed, even if production-wise you're drawing inspiration from past songs and artists and everything like that. So I think it's kind of like a balancing act, and I definitely credit the producer I worked with, Luke Nicolai, on kind of helping me bridge things together and making them feel like pop songs, even if they're rooted in something that's kind of different.
Yeah, because I think that's a difficult balance to kind of get right, especially with kind of, I guess, people's perception of you as an artist, because I think you're seen as like, you know, an emo artist with kind of very deep, introspective lyrics.
Yeah.
But then people hear a pop song and they'll be like, oh, like that's not the same thing. Like, was it important that kind of your lyrics were as moving and kind of as kind of vulnerable as they'd been before?
I think so. And naturally, I feel like that's probably how I write anyways, is just like I use my songs as diary entries for myself. And so the lyrics are going to be very like, okay, this girl clearly has some things to figure out. And we can hear that through the choruses and the verses she's writing. So I think, yeah, there was definitely, it was kind of on the top of my mind. Like I wanted it to feel familiar lyrically for people who were listening, because I think that's always kind of the most important part for me, is that the story that's being told still feels like it has a through line with the rest of whatever I've released. But production-wise, I was just like, you know, I'm going to have fun with this part of it.
Are you kind of any worries about that?
Any worries about, like, having fun with it? Or
Yeah, just because, you know, people, I think you're seen as quite a serious.
Yeah.
Your music, like, it means a lot to people. And I think
Definitely, yeah.
And if you kind of, if people hear you going, oh, I was having fun with it, they're like, oh.
Yeah. I think there was a piece of me that was like, is this going to be too left field for people to like appreciate? But I mean, I'm still the same person that wrote those same sad songs that maybe people apply to like very dark moments of their life. And I think naturally, I still think about those things every single day. So it's not like it's left my brain, and there's definitely still tracks on this project that I think are reflective of the core that people may be familiar with, because I still think about being sad all the time. That's not anything that's left my brain. So it was a little bit scary, but I think that also being somebody who has an online presence outside of music was really helpful in kind of cementing myself as a more rounded individual that maybe has the side of myself that has the possibility of being more upbeat and more weird and quirky. So yeah, I think it was helpful. If I didn't have that, it would be probably more terrifying than it ended up being.
Yeah, so instead I saw the TikTok you shared the other day of someone being like, oh, I didn't know you're a musician. Like, you've got, I think it was potential or promise.
Yeah, I was like, I think it ended up being a joke, but it was really funny when I read that. I was like, thank you, but also, okay. Like, it is strange. I think some people, I've asked before on my Twitter, I'm like, do some of you not even know that I make music? Like, are you just following me because of what I post? And there was a handful of people that were like, I genuinely didn't know you're a musician. I just followed you because I thought your account was funny. And I was like, I'm so flattered. But yes, I do make music. So I think it's helpful, and it is hilarious, the kind of people that end up finding me because of the things I post and not the music I make. Yeah.
Because I guess the way TikTok works is so different to kind of YouTube, where it's like, this is my channel and it's very carefully curated. And similar with Spotify, where it's like, these are all my songs and diary entries. Like, I'm inviting you into my world. Whereas TikTok, it's like, any single video could kind of pop up. That could be someone's introduction to you.
Yes, totally. It's just like anything could show up. So I don't know. I just post whatever I want anytime. Yeah.
Do you think that helped you be less precious with the music and kind of allow you to kind of do different things?
I think so. I mean, I definitely, there's a lot of truth to the fact that I've always kind of been very myself online, and like TikTok specifically, I think allows me to showcase a side of myself that I am kind of regularly in my day-to-day life. I'm a pretty jovial person. I'm not like, I can be sad sometimes, but I definitely think I carry myself in a very different way than people might expect from lyrics like songs on Feelings Are Fatal. Like, so I think in that way, TikTok has definitely allowed for people to see that I'm not the way my music sounds. And I think that this music is actually probably more reflective of who I am. And it's so fun to be able to like update people on that and actually have it match up for the first time. Yeah.
Do you think that comes with like a renewed confidence?
Definitely. I think, I mean, we've had so much time to sit with ourselves and think about who we are in the past 2 years. I feel like it just was this urge to like be me in the fullest way that I could possibly be, especially when you're stuck at home all day. Like if you could express yourself in any other way that's not just sitting in your room, you're gonna try and do that.
Amazing. I think it's so interesting that kind of the whole bedroom pop scene, you know, like you, Chloe, Biba Doobie, Girl in Red, like you all started making kind of these very introspective lo-fi records. And over the past 2 years, like you've all just kind of scattered and done all these completely different genres and like, but still kind of carry that bedroom pop tag. Like, why do you think that's kind of happened?
Ooh, such a good question. Chloe's one of my favorite examples of like finding her voice, because God, her music is amazing and they're doing such a good job. But I think honestly, it probably comes down to like being able to have the tools that we finally envisioned ourselves having at some point. Like I love the ukulele. It gave me a way to write music for the very first time, but I've always kind of had that ache to want to work with somebody that can help me make music the way I envisioned I wanted it to sound. And so it really is just a learning process and being able to gather the vocabulary to explain what you want. And it's interesting. Like I think bedroom pop is a wonderful like launching point for people to discover their voices lyrically and kind of what they want to make. But it is so cool to see how people diverge when they finally have the access and like people to work with that can make their dreams a reality. Yeah.
Do you kind of still feel part of a scene? Either that scene or like a different scene or like...
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think bedroom pop is so great because it kind of, I think, addresses the vulnerability that a lot of like bedroom pop has. It's about people being in their space and making music. And I mean, like even a lot of these songs that I made are made in people's own personal studios inside their houses. Like these are still spaces that people feel comfortable in, that they've curated for themselves, very similar to a bedroom. And yeah, I definitely feel like I'm a part of it. I mean, my TikTok's a great example. I'm still posting from my bedroom constantly. Like I'm a regular individual the same way that I was when I began. And I'm still tweeting every single day, still posting from random areas of my home. So it's not too different.
I mean, ambition-wise, like where do you kind of see this going? Because it does feel like a more ambitious record.
It does,
like even based on the couple of tracks you've kind of released so far.
Oh my gosh, it's so difficult because I never envisioned myself ever being a musician in any capacity. And I definitely do think that this is kind of a more ambitious record in the nature of like what the messages are and the way that it sounds. But I'm just like, I'm so happy with the way that I have my life right now and the connection I have with my audience. And I don't know, I'm just here for the ride. I'm just happy to like play shows and excited to meet people and see people around the world and hopefully just keep making music. I mean, that's what I love to do, and to share it with people is so exciting. So, I don't know, people ask me sometimes like, where would you see yourself in 5 years? I have no clue. I have no idea, and I don't know what that music will sound like then. I think if anything, I would really love to like help other people kind of create their creative universe and make that a possibility, because it's been such a wonderful process for me to realize, you know, what it's like to go through the process of making music, coming from a bedroom and working into a studio, and to help other musicians who are out of their bedroom create their visions and make their worlds be super fulfilling and rewarding. But I don't know when that will happen. Yeah.
How do you kind of see that working? Was it kind of like, I guess, supporting you on tour or kind of collabs or kind of...
I think any way it can happen. I mean, like, it's so fun to go on tour with people and to like, you know, I've gone on tour with Chloe before, and we're going out again this spring. And so it's just like selfishly so fun to go with a friend. But I mean, even like writing with other musicians, and like, I know that the people that helped me write these songs were so impactful on, you know, providing me a space to find my voice, for me to help co-write other people's songs and like help them create a single that they're so proud of, the way that I am with things like Mona Lisa and Sad Disco, would also be really fulfilling as well. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And I know kind of you teamed up with Carly on the last EP. Are there any kind of collabs on this record?
Mm-hmm. A lot of the writing was more of the collaborative end. These songs actually don't have any features. And I think that that was a really important piece for me too, to kind of be like, okay, this is just mine. And I'm going to make it me and kind of, you know, be ambitious and stating my voice and presenting myself to the world without other people. I think features are wonderful, but I'm just excited to introduce people to me. Yeah.
Amazing. And kind of, what do you want people to get from this record?
Yeah. I hope that they can kind of gain maybe more understanding even for their own lives. Like, I think a lot of these songs are almost instruction manuals for myself for different scenarios that I might find myself in, whether it's like waking up and not feeling so good about who I am, or feeling lost and kind of spaced out in my day-to-day life. I think a lot of these songs I hopefully can kind of become a presence in other people's lives where they feel like they have almost a voice that's guiding them through something, because I definitely need that. And a lot of these songs are made for me in those situations, and I hope they provide the same sort of wisdom that they've given my own life.
Is there kind of a pressure that comes with that, knowing that kind of you're going to be releasing songs and obviously like you're super connected with your fan base, like you talk to them all the time.
Yeah.
Like, is it a bit like, oh, I hope this does something for them?
I think it is. It's like, you know, you really just want it to become something special for people, and you can't force that clearly, but you do want that to happen. And I think what I try and do is write for as many different scenarios as possible. And, you know, even if someone finds one lyric on an album, I feel like I did a good job, just because, you know, humans are so diverse in their experiences. For you to write something that resonates with one person is so impressive because, you know, everybody's experiencing things in different ways. And so I try not to put too much pressure on myself. I'm like, okay, they don't need to like the whole song, but maybe if they like one part of it, then that's totally fine.
Amazing. And I know you kind of did the singing voice for Alex Gent in Life is Strange True Colours. Was that as fun as it sounds?
It was. Yeah. It was very fun. I mean, like, I can't believe we look identical too. Like, that was really cool to find out, because when I auditioned for her, I had no idea what she looked like. And they sent me a photo and I was like, are you kidding me? Did you base her off of the way that I look? And so it was really fun.
Amazing. And that game, like, brilliant game. And I've seen it, you know, it's been praised for kind of its American Asian representation and how it kind of speaks to the queer community. Like, and I know you're a gamer. Like, do you kind of feel like that representation is important in games?
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, I am everything Alex Chen is. I am a queer musician who is Asian, and I wear glasses, so we're pretty much the same. And so I think it was really important when I found out, because I was like, oh gosh, the things I would have done to have a game like this when I was growing up, and like at a point where I felt like I didn't have any person that understood my story and understood my identity. And I mean, representation is incredible, because I mean, I see even things like Encanto recently came out, and like, to see little kids posing alongside like screen caps from that movie, it's just so moving to see people be able to celebrate the fact that there's somebody that looks like them or somebody that understands them. And game spaces, I think specifically, have been such safe havens for people who come from diverse backgrounds, whether they're queer or whether they're people of color or women specifically too. I think I've always really loved video games as a form of escape and storytelling. And for a game like Life is Strange True Colours to have a character that's so reflective of me, I hope that there are so many games that are on the horizon for other people to find themselves in the protagonist.
Yeah, I mean, I guess between that and kind of the music that they make, do you kind of feel like a role model?
Ooh. I think in some ways, yes. It's a very strange, like, role model is so interesting to me, because I feel like more of an older sister than maybe a role model. Yeah, I feel like a like maybe like an aunt, like a mom, an older sister. Role model is still something that I feel like I would love to claim that title eventually, but I am such a mess. I don't think I could. I think allowing myself to be the older sister gives myself more room to be messy and weird. But I think I definitely naturally have ended up kind of probably being a figure for people to look up to in some ways. And I'm just so honored, because I had so many role models growing up, and to be one of them for somebody else is so crazy. Yeah.
Amazing. And I guess lastly, like, you know, you've been a podcaster, you're a musician, you've kind of done the voice of games, like, you're a TikTok sensation. Like, I mean, what's next for you?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea, which I think is super exciting too. Like mxmtoon has been the craziest, most like off the wall project ever. I mean, with this album coming out, did a podcast, did the gaming, did the streaming, did the, oh my gosh, can't even, TikToking. So I think that because it's been so many things, I really can't even expect what's to come next. And so I think that's exciting too, because I don't think people expect what's to come next either. And I'm still figuring it out as people do too. So who knows? Maybe another podcast, maybe, I don't know. I think anything creative will always speak to me. So if I can find a way to tell a story, I'll do that. And whether that's through music or podcasting or gaming or acting, who knows? I'll do it. Mm-hmm.
Do you kind of feel like all those different outlets kind of help you find who you are and kind of help you understand that a bit better?
Absolutely. I think, storytelling is just such a powerful tool for us to communicate who we are. And music is one way to do it. Painting is another way to do it. There's so many different forms. And I'm just excited to figure out how you can do it in different ways. And I'm just barely cracking the surface on it. And hopefully I'll find different expressions as we go. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Well, I'm super excited to kind of see where it goes next.
Thank you. I'm excited too.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.